everybody. Welcome to Creative University. A lot of you are new to this. We have a very special guest today, which I don't need to tell you that. It's CLAIRO Cottrill, and we'll have her on in 1 second. But my name is Peter Chadi. I'm the chairman and founder with my wife, Louisa, and our 2 kids who are in school, one a high school student and another at USC in college, having this experience that all of you are having and dealing with it all. Creative University was born out of that. That's why we started this. It's for you. We created this for you, and we did it so we could bring great minds, great artistry, great artists like Claire and others who are joining, and we have captains of industry in the media and entertainment and tech world. We have so many people who are coming on board because they want to talk to you and they want to give hope, inspiration, and Creative University also gives real mentorships for those who are passionate about getting into the music, media, entertainment, and tech worlds. So you got to check out the Creative University website because it's a pure give back. It's purely for all of you. So you'll see at the bottom of the page, that's the link to check it out. You'll see live internships already. Besides that, we'll have student sessions that will talk about mental health, mental wellness, but all kinds of resources and upcoming sessions. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because Creative University is really, we want to get your feedback. We want to get it and we want to make it better and better and hear what you have to say. So go to that page, send any kind of questions or feedback that you have, and we'll go from there. So with that, let's start with today's special guest on this special evening edition of Creative University. I'd like to welcome artist, musician, CLAIRO Cottrill. CLAIRO. So CLAIRO, can you come on?
Hello, wait.
There you are. Great to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, so let's start. So CLAIRO, great to have you on. First of all, we had this Carole King song.
Yeah.
Started us off. And anytime I have a guest, I always ask them to pick the song. So I'd like to understand why you chose that song, because it could have been anything. It could have been one of your songs, but it didn't have to be, and you went with this.
Well, I love Carole King so much, and I think with this next album that I'm working on, I'm trying to do a lot of stuff that's inspired by her, and that's like my favorite song on Tapestry. So I think that I just loved how simple it was, and I am trying to learn piano as well. So yeah, I think that era of music and like everything that she was surrounded by is kind of what I'm going for. Thing. So yeah.
It's a great classic song.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's kind of interesting that being a young person and going back and checking out some of the songs, the old great classic songs, and maybe even getting some inspiration from them.
Yeah, I feel like I mainly listen, like I think at least during this album process, I've been like exclusively listening to that group of people, like the whole Laurel Canyon squad is what I've been like obsessed with.
Great spot. Fun fact, I used to live in Laurel Canyon actually.
Oh,
great
wow.
Place. Great place. So we have, CLAIRO, we have guests students from Spain, Mexico, Paraguay, Brazil, Peru, South Korea, I'm sure many, many others. And I was barraged with questions in advance. And everybody who's listening, we're going to get to a lot of them. But there's a lot there, so we'll do our best. I want to certainly get into your journey first because there's a lot of questions about that.
Okay.
And the audience here, as I said at the beginning, they're young, all young people. It's students, and we're particularly geared toward high school students, college students who are interested in the business. And obviously, you found great success at such a young age getting into the business.
Thank you.
So we would like to learn, and everybody would like to learn from your journey, how you started getting your inspiration in music and how you broke into the business.
Well, okay. I'm trying to think where to start. I started originally posting music on SoundCloud when I was in high school. It was like, I've always been obsessed with music, and I've always loved finding new music and just discovering things. And my parents were like really, and it was a music filled household. Everyone was a music lover, so it was pretty easy and normal for me to like become obsessed with music. But I started covering songs on YouTube first when I was like in 8th grade, and then sophomore year of high school, that's when I started posting my own music. And then from then on, I just kept making music there, and I kind of had this like tiny SoundCloud following for a while, until I made Pretty Girl, and I made that for a compilation tape for a magazine, and I made a video for it. I made it the January of 2017, and then I released it in August. And then that video went viral on YouTube, which is like still very insane to me to this day. But
just organically.
yeah, I'm not really entirely sure what happened. I think it was either organically, or there were like these people who were like spamming people with the music link or with the video link, and just there's so many different things I found that contributed to it that I just don't really know like why that song, and like why then, and why everything just aligned at that point, because I had made so many other songs for years and nothing had happened that, in my opinion, were better than that song. So I was confused, but that's kind of around the time where I had labels reaching out, and like major labels reaching out, and that was always my dream, to be on a label and to be a musician. So I kind of was jumping the gun a little bit, and just almost got into a lot of things that would have screwed me over later on. But
So let me stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
You almost got some things that would have kind of screwed you later on. So explain that a little bit, like those impediments that might have gotten in the way.
Basically, I was just asked, like I was being reached out to from A&Rs and like just major label people, because my video had gone viral, and like I guess people were talking about it, which was cool. And I was like very starry-eyed, because it was an opportunity that I've like never seen before, and I've always wanted to be a musician, and I wanted to strike while the iron was hot. But but then I realized that like the deals that I was looking at were probably gonna have me be locked away for like a long time, multiple albums, and then I realized that maybe that they would expect me to make more music like Pretty Girl, which wasn't gonna happen. And once I started thinking about all the things that they were expecting of me, and like all of the things that I would have to fulfill, which I had one song that kind of drew everyone in. So I wasn't really sure if anyone really knew much about me as an artist, like outside of that. So I was getting kind of scared. I was just like, I don't want to make a mistake, because I actually do really want to be a musician, and I'm scared. And I was luckily in a place where I could make that decision. I was very lucky to be in a position where I didn't have to, it wasn't a life or death situation, and I didn't have to sign a deal to feel okay.
So they were trying to put the business before the music.
Right. Well, I guess it was like so early on, I didn't even really know what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I wasn't really I wasn't in the headspace to lock myself down in some sort of contract that was completely based off of a mistake, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think making the song or the video was a mistake, but I do think that it wasn't planned. And that wasn't the thing that I was like, this is my best work, this is what I want to make forever. But that's what I would have been doing if I had taken some sort of deal like that. So then I went to college, and I went to Syracuse University for music business. I went
in the band year program, isn't that what it's called? Yeah. I think we have some Syracuse students who are on right now.
Oh, cool!
Shout
out the Orange. But I went to the band year program, and I was only there for a year, but I learned so much about just kind of the headspace and like the mindset of people who are at labels, and what deals really mean, and why it's important to wait or why it's not important to wait, like what you should look for if you're this kind of artist. And entering a music business program as an artist was really cool for me because I honestly got to see the other side for what it actually is, like in its rawest form. Like it wasn't packaged up nicely so that I would like it. Everything I learned was actually what's happening. And then I learned that, like, you know, maybe I don't want to be an A&R because that's not what I want to do anymore after learning about it. And I learned more about labels and what they're about. And, you know, it was just really great for me to know because it gave me perspective that I could still do it without one. If
Did
I
you
were,
also, did you find as a musician that, because this is a theme that comes up a lot in Creative University, where it's so important to understand whether you're a creative, such as yourself, or whether you're a business person, to understand the whole picture, right? So
yeah,
a creative, an artist, it's important to understand the business sides that you're talking about and learn about
yeah.
them, because it will help you navigate a lot of that.
Definitely. Like I always wanted to be an A&R because I was obsessed with finding music and that was really important to me, and finding small artists and like wanting to help them was super important to me. But then learning about, like, if I were to be an A&R at a major, I may not be, even if I find someone I like and I care about and I love their music and the label takes them, like that doesn't really mean that I'm going to still have a relationship with them after. Or if I'm actually like, you know, setting them up to be like eaten alive by some deal that they're not ready to take, you know, like it's not really my job to convince them to do the right thing for themselves. I'm representing a company. And then, you know, you have to kind of switch off the like, am I a music lover, or do I want to do the right thing for my company? And I was kind of just like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I was also like coming at it from an artist perspective, so I was kind of like anti everything. But then I signed with Fader, which was like a family friend label that I've known John Cohen from Fader my entire life. And when I had a meeting with him, I was just very confused and really lost. And he was like, you know, well, why don't we just like work together and we'll just see what happens, and we'll just like make sure you're protected for the time being. And I've been with them since.
How
Just
long
because
ago? What year was that?
that was 2018.
Okay, so a couple years back.
No, it could have, no, I think it was 2017.
Okay.
I don't know.
Everything's a little bit blurry during these
Yeah.
periods. Kind of,
But yeah, I've been with them ever since because I like value that loyalty and that trust a lot. And, you know, John Cohen treats me like a daughter, and that's kind of what I need. Like, especially when I was starting, I really needed guidance. And to have someone that was so close to me in my personal life, it was good to have kind of another like father figure looking out for me and helping me not make bigger mistakes, and just, you know, having that trust. And it's been really great to work with them.
so how do you, based on everything that you were just saying there, and you were fortunate to have, you had that kind of a mentor, right?
Yeah.
Like mentors and relationships, those kind of relationships. It's a recurring theme in the discussions that I have with people, that relationships are everything. You know, school is great to give you the background and everything, but taking a step forward, trying to create a relationship can matter. For based on everything you were talking about, what kind of tips, like Blake has the question and there are a number of others, what kind of tips can you give based on what you've seen for starting singers and songwriters?
Um, I mean, I think it depends on every like different person. Like for me, I was really invested in like almost littering the internet with all of my music. Like I was just posting everything I was making, not necessarily like to just have one thing work and to be discovered, but I was like, there's no use in me holding this to myself if like it's only gonna get me further away from where I want to be. So I'm just gonna put it out there. And I think that it's really great when artists like don't release music for years and years and years, like at all, until they're ready. That's what you're supposed to do. But I guess just don't be afraid of like putting it out there, because I feel like only good things can happen from taking a little bit of a risk with that. and you can only get better with people hearing it, giving you tips and giving you critique, and hearing yourself in a different context and being like, okay, that's what I'm going to do next time. Because you hear your music differently when you're with someone else. Like, I can listen to a song a million times, then I'll show up to someone, I'll be like, I got to change a lot of stuff because now I'm hearing it from the outside and I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do to make it better, because I'm embarrassed that they're hearing this side of it when I can make it better and I know I can. And that's how I work. Like, I show my friends all my music just to get that kind of feeling. But I guess industry wise, like, just don't take the first deal that you're presented with. Like, just don't. Like, I remember, like, I got a contract from a label and I was super excited, and they had my favorite band on there and I was like, let's go. I want to work with them. They're cool. Sent me a contract and my name was misspelled. My whole name was just like totally butchered.
They really took the time, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they were like, okay, we're gonna mess this up. No, but it was kind of like, I showed my parents and they were like, this is just like a slap in the face. Like,
Big mistake from them. Big mistake.
I mean, it was just kind of funny. And I was like, oh, I don't care. Like, people do that all the time. They're like, they're your label. Like, they're trying to sign you because they care about you and they spelled your whole name wrong. Let's not go there. And that was the first like contract I ever got. And it was like through email and I'd never met anyone. I was like, this is fine. Like, you need to have so many meetings and you need to really like get the right energy from the person before you even talk about music. Like, you need to talk about life and about things you like and just normal people things before you actually are like, okay, this is what I'm offering you, or this is what I need from you. And
just authenticity, you know,
just transparency.
Completely.
You know, like, you can, and also you can like somebody, but they can also be like, you know, giving you some sort of deal that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense because they're so nice to you, but they can still be taking advantage of you even if they're nice to you. So you have to like proceed with caution, especially if you're like a woman in the music industry or however you identify. It's just like, it's a little bit more difficult. Like, emotional manipulation is very real. And I, you know, got myself in a lot of situations where I fell for that. And I'm lucky that I didn't fall for like some major deal based on that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I just think like proceed with caution, but don't be too afraid. That's so vague, but
well, no, but that's good. Look, you know, there are a couple of very important things there. I think that first of all, the business has evolved tremendously, and you're one of the reasons why. I mean, you have new tools at your disposal where you can get your songs out there when you want to get your songs out there. You can follow your own pace. You can be organic and authentic to yourself rather than following all the rules that the record business had not that long ago. And so there are a lot of artists who still wait years between albums and consider them albums. That whole concept, of course, is kind of going away, but there's so much more freedom just in the business itself. And then the fact that you took, you know, you went out there and you wanted to learn the business side by going to Syracuse and taking action there to be a better artist. So like some lessons to all of you out there, it's taking bold steps that are scary, expanding, try to learn as much as you can about a wide variety of things in the business. That's going to help you. But so let's get into your creative process a little bit, because there's so many questions from people. And I guess, first of all, I want to ask you, I called you I'm an artist musician. What do you consider yourself?
I mean, I would say musician. Like, I would say that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm figuring it out. You know, I just think I'm an artist.
And how do you describe your music?
Well, with album 2, it's kind of different. I mean, I have jumped around a lot with genre, and I think it makes everything very confusing, especially for me. But I think I just stick with alternative as of now. But yeah, I was like, when the whole bedroom pop thing was happening, it was like confusing because I felt like I wasn't trying to do that. You know, like I don't know if you, yeah,
Yeah.
but just like the the whole bedroom pop thing was interesting because it was kind of like a big like sheen over like a lot of different kinds of artists, and I felt like I didn't know how to identify after that because I was being pinned as this so many times, and I was just kind of like, I just make music in my room and that's all I've done so far. But then now it has this like weird edgy look because it's like bedroom pop. It doesn't really make any sense, but I think that has outgrown a little bit. But you know, I think I just consider myself alternative at this point because I'm not making music only in my room now. So
And
I can't say it's bedroom pop.
how is that working for you?
It's good. It's
Yeah,
good. I mean, I have my setup right here. Like I still do record demos here. Just got a new guitar,
there you
but
go.
um, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll get into your process. But obviously, all of everybody out there is dealing with these crazy times and locked in our houses, can't see friends. School is completely confusing. I feel really bad for young people and all the things you guys have to deal with. But how has this whole lockdown and the pandemic impacted you, your writing, just the style of writing, the vibes that are coming out, all of that?
I think in the beginning of quarantine, I was just like, what's happening? Because I had this entire year booked with touring and it just went away. Everything went away. And I don't even know when I'm gonna be doing anything again, which is like at this point I've accepted it, but I did have a really like crazy time where I was just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Touring is the only constant I have, it's the only schedule I have because I don't make music in a schedule. So it's like, what do I do at this point? But once I started to accept that this was just gonna happen and this was like what it was gonna be like, I set up my like little home studio with a guitar and a microphone and my interface and everything. And I just started making tons of music, and I probably made like 60 songs over quarantine, but I only really want to keep like 3 or 4 of them. So it was like, it was really good for me because I went through so many phases of writing, and I feel like I have to write so many songs before I actually get to one that makes me feel anything. And taking that time is really important to me this time around. Like I want the lyrics to be a lot more intricate. I want to play every song on guitar, and I want to just like have every song be like the best of the best of that patch of songs I made in that time. Like so that, I mean, at this point, yeah, I'm just like feeling really good about writing, and I've honestly been more inspired than anything at this point because I don't have any outside influences. I'm not going to shows and like
Yeah, yeah.
other people do their thing. Like I'm totally like tunnel vision on what I'm doing and how I can be better and how I can get better at guitar, how I can be a better writer, how I can like you know, talk about things that actually affect me. Um
Do you think your sound is different than it otherwise would have been because of the experiences that we're having and
I
your
think so.
experimentation and all that?
Yeah, I do think so. Cause yeah, I don't know. I think at one point I was just kind of like, I want to do like a bunch of different sounds and I want to be like really weird and I want to like do like breakbeat drums and like bring back like house music. Like I don't know why I was thinking that. And not that I don't love that music because I genuinely do, but I just don't think I could do it. And then I just decided to like only really record stuff that I play on my like guitar when I'm alone and like what am I actually writing when no one's looking?
Mhm.
And that's more of the vibe of this record. Like what do I make when no one is around? Like what do I make when I'm isolated basically? So um
So it's gonna be more personal, even
way
more.
more personal and just more everything means a lot more to me because I'm actually talking about things that I think Immunity had a lot of like great points like I talked about things generally that I wanted to talk about that I hadn't before. But I think like this album goes even further into things that I probably just think about for a second, then I suppress because I don't want to think about it because it makes me uncomfortable, or just things that I like am still processing, like mistakes I'm making, like things that I'm not good at. I want to talk about because, yeah. So I think quarantine honestly was like one of the best things to happen to me, just because I'm not putting myself in danger, so I'm not putting anyone else in danger, which is good. But
I'm
the
hearing
like
that. I'm
isolation.
hearing that. Oh, I'm hearing that a lot from a lot of different creatives and there's nothing else that can be done right now because we can't
Oh,
go outside, and so there's going to be this tremendous creative explosion that's happening because people are just creating
I
and
believe it. I believe it.
experimenting.
Yeah, I just like the idea of everyone being able to make whatever they want without like wondering what everyone else is doing. Like this person's on tour. This person just put out an album. That means I have to put out an album. That means I have to be the coolest, most hip person out there because everyone else is working so hard and putting everything and just pumping out music and I'm not. That
Yeah.
means I should. When in reality, like the world pausing for a second was so good for me because I tend to get wrapped up in things that don't really mean anything sometimes, especially like when I look at other people. Sometimes I'm like, oh, should I be doing that? Like, should I be putting out 2 albums a year? Like, what? And then so I try, and then I don't get to where I want to be because I'm actually focused on the wrong thing. So
And
now
then
that no one's doing anything, I'm good.
and then you realize that nobody has it figured out. I mean, like
Yeah.
there's no one path to do any of these things. Everybody's kind of making it up as they go, whatever that may be. So I want to get into some of the specific questions about your creative process. And so Julia asks, and I'll kind of combine these, and Aisha asks, how do you get yourself into your optimal creative space to write? And how do you just start writing a song and making the lyrics fit in the right places if you're using the right words, all of that kind of stuff. But why don't you go through your Claire process?
Um, okay. Well, I'm actually quarantined with like 4 of my friends right now. And they have explained this to me a few times. Which I didn't really notice that I did this, but I guess I do. And so we'll just be like sitting on the porch. I'll be like, I'll be right back. And then I leave for an hour and a half and I come back with a full-fledged song and they're like, what? Like why then, why at that moment did you just decide? And I genuinely don't know that part. Like most of the time it's just when I have like the right amount of energy to not only like produce a song but also write. And I like to do things all in one sitting. Or else like if I write a guitar line and then I don't write something to it, then I just won't feel like I can write a melody afterwards because like I just forgot what I was originally doing and my original thought was probably better, and just, I psych myself out. So I just like to do things in one sitting. So if I have like a surge of energy that uh, allows me to do both, then I usually just like bolt and go straight to the desk and work. But I usually start with guitar. Like that is like 100% my favorite instrument. It's the only one I know how to play very well, but it is like the way I communicate. And I don't know much about guitar technically because I only had a few lessons, but I did learn a lot of like shapes and just messing around from there. I usually end up on something or some chord progression that feels good to me. And then once I have that, I record it and then I do like another guitar line and then I add drums and then I add like keys or something and then I start writing. And I like to create like the world around the song before so that I can get into the headspace of like, okay, this song is like definitely sad, or this song is like hopeful, or this song is happy, this is like celebratory, or like it can sound happy and I can talk about something sad. Like it really just depends on what the last thing I was thinking about, or like the last thing I was stressed about, or the last thing I was happy about, like whatever it was last, I usually go there.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. So something takes shape as a sad song because you're in that kind of moment at that time,
Yeah.
rather than thinking, okay, I want to build a sad song right now.
Yeah, that has never worked for me. Like when I go in a studio and everyone's like, we should write a sad song. It's like,
Yeah.
no one's sad right now. Like we're not gonna get there
See,
if
that's the
no one's
record label.
actually depressed.
That's what the record label does.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, kind of a little bit, but it's like I mean, I guess maybe the energy I'm talking about is really just like the emotion I'm like wanting to like uh, explore, or the emotion I'm trying to like emphasize on. Um, because like, how can I possibly write a song that means anything, or like write a song that is gonna resonate with anyone else if I'm not actually coming from a place where I feel the same? Like if I'm just trying to mimic an emotion, like that's actually not going to do anything for me, and I'm only going to get to this surface level version of what it actually is. And when you're actually feeling it, you're able to implement all of these like specific experiences and moments that like most people feel. So like when you're sad, or when you're talking about depression, like there's certain things you feel when you're depressed, or certain things you do, and when you talk about those things, that's what resonates. Not just saying I'm depressed. Like the blanket term like never really works, and that's what like I'm really focused on this time around, is like the specifics and the moments that like people may or may not be able to like instantly relate to. So
So it sounds like music is kind of your therapy too.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
we all need something.
we all need therapy.
We all need.
Everyone needs to go to a therapist, and that is very true. But I do think that if I have a lot of emotions bottled up, I go straight to music.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the only way I know how to like talk about it, just so candidly, because I end up writing lyrics I don't really know what they mean in the moment, and then when I see them days later, I'm like, oh, I actually was talking about everything I was feeling in a
Yeah.
really detailed way. I just didn't really know it at the time.
Well, see,
So,
that's a good dovetail actually into a question from Maya, who says, how do you build the courage to write about the things in your life that you might be scared to show the world? How do you
that's,
reveal yourself? Like, how do you get comfort in that? Like, how, or get comfortable with that, opening yourself up?
um, I think at first I was like, okay, I don't want to talk about my sexuality. Okay, I don't want to really talk about like my depression in eighth grade. Like, that's kind of like super heavy. But then I was like, I'm writing an album. Like, albums are supposed to be filled with like my personal experiences, whether they're good or bad. And I also was thinking, like, what's the point in me making an album that doesn't go there? Um, and also by sharing personal experiences and by sharing things that I'm scared of talking about, it's only really going to put me in a position where I'm also surrounded by other people who have also felt that. Like,
Yeah.
no real reason I shouldn't share it if it's going to bring me a group of people who are like, hey, I also have this and this and this, and I get you, and I'm here for you, and you're here for me. And that's what's so important to me with like people who listen to my music, because I want to be there as much as they are for me. Like, them like telling me what how they feel the exact same as me, or they have arthritis like I do, or they're like dealing with sexuality like I do, like that helps me as much as it maybe helps them. And feeling that sense of community within music is so important to me, because I grew up going to house shows, and I grew up playing house shows and taking trains to Philadelphia, like playing shows with like my friends. Like community was always such an important part of music to me, and like even as things grow, like I want to still maintain that camaraderie and like friendship within music. So that's why I feel like it's like these are my friends. Like I should be able to talk about this.
Well, and that's a wonderful thing because obviously everybody, all of you out there, you're not, it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. You're not alone with whatever you're feeling. Everybody has their dark moments and all of that. and especially now with all the crazy stuff around. And so it's a wonderful thing that you open yourself up, and artists, you know, that's part of the artistic process. But it can't be easy to do. Like it can't be easy to do. So I want to ask you a question related to that. Tanya says or asks, what are your thoughts on how this generation, not mine, we have our own issues, but how you all young people deal with, like, how you all handle mental health? What are your thoughts about that?
I do think that like it's more common than anyone really thought, and like now everyone in our generation is like very aware of it and aware that like probably everyone around you is like somewhat depressed or dealing with something, and like all of my friends have been there or are currently going through it, and I'm happy that everyone is like normalizing it a little bit just so that it's easier to talk about. I feel like if when depression was kind of like a taboo thing to talk about, it's just kind of like, well, you know, be happy, it's fine. Like that's, we know now that's not the right response to someone who's
That was my
depressed.
era. That
Yeah.
was, I had to deal with that.
Yeah, I just think like the empathy that like our generation has is really important, and the room to grow and breathe is really like apparent to me. It lets me feel like I can talk about my mental health and I can be open about it because everyone else is, and by sharing it, it is only going to help normalize it even more. Um, you know, talking about it on like a bigger scale, it's important to like, I don't know, if someone just, if that's like, if Ill Wife is like the first song anyone hears from me, and that's like me dealing with my depression in 8th grade, like they just happen to hear it and they're going through the same thing, like that's really important to me. Like I want people to know that like 8th grade is not going to be the end all be all. And like if no one tells you that, like at least you hear it in the song. Like just hear it once because it's gonna be fine. Like you don't need to stress about 8th grade. Um but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel really lucky to be in this generation. I feel like everyone's really, really cool. And like everyone is towards mental health, it's a lot better than it was in my parents' generation, and you know, dealing with it on such a like high level for like the majority of my life, I feel supported and protected by my generation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what are the things that do, a related question, what keeps you motivated and happy so you don't fall into a dark place, or if you do fall into a dark place, how do you deal with that?
That's a really sweet question. Well, like we were all quarantined for 5 months, and that was really difficult for a while because I was so isolated, and sometimes it's really hard for me to be alone for that amount of time. You know, my family are like my best friends. Like my parents and my sister are like everything to me, and I was so lucky to be able to be with them for most of it. But it got to a certain point where I was like, I have to see my friends, and so 4 of my friends and I went to Los Angeles and got this house, and we've all gotten tested and we haven't left the house, and we've just been together. And it honestly has all helped our mental health so much, just being around people that you are your chosen family. Like I feel lucky to be able to have done this with them, and they are the reasons why I have the energy to make music, or they're the reasons why I feel supported, or I feel like I can pick myself up when I'm feeling down, because they're always there, and there's always a solution with your group of friends. Whereas when you're alone, you can't really, you know, be in the right mindset to be like, okay, what do I do to make myself feel better? But when you have other people around you, they can look out for you. And so, yeah, I think friends and family are the most important thing to me. And also just making music has kept me sane.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really
Okay.
just those three things.
You mentioned sexuality too, and I received a number of questions there too, and I wanted to get into some of those. So Alessia asks, what would you say to a person who wants to make his or her coming out? I want to come out as a bisexual, but I'm very afraid of how people would react. and some advice from you would be very important to me. Thank you so much. I'm really proud of you, Angel.
Oh. um, I did it in a really strange way. Um, when I went to college, I just pretended that I had already done it. So I just like took on the identity and was like, whatever. Like, I'm not going to see anyone I know from high school. Like, I'm just going to say that I'm bi. I'm just going to say it's always been that way. No one can tell me otherwise. And whatever. And, you know, then eventually I was like, okay, I need to like actually say something online. And then I did. And it was like funny. And there was more support than I really thought. Um, but yeah, I think
Was that
I would,
scary for you?
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I remember like pulling aside my mom separately and my sister separately and like my dad and like just being like, hey, like, ugh. And they were like, everyone, you know, my sister was like, oh, I already knew that. And my parents were like, oh, that's cool. Like, what does that mean? And, you know, it was just, everyone was cool. Like, no one was like,
What does
no
that?
one was like, oh my God, like, you're the worst for coming out. Like, you like girls, like, that sucks. Like, you should totally just die. But I actually wasn't met with any of that. And I was very lucky to have not been met by any of that. But I do feel like if I had come out in high school, I would have had a harder time. And people who do come out in high school or middle school, like, they are literally the strongest, fearless people, like the most fearless people in the world, because kids are so rude and they're like, people don't know how to handle that kind of situation because it's not common and it's not exposed to them maybe that often. And I feel like it's different now. Like kids even younger than me, like are so much like braver than I ever was, and they're being met with the most support possible. But in terms of like where I was, I just wasn't comfortable. Um, and then I just waited till I was. And then my family just like found out. My grandma found out through Twitter. Like it just happened. Like it's okay.
Your grandmother's on Twitter? That's impressive.
It was actually her friend who had Twitter told my grandmother she did not have Twitter. So yeah, cat's out of the bag with that one, but it was okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have any advice other than to just do it when you feel like you should do it, and there's no real rush. You can always do it whenever you want. There's no pressure to do anything you're not comfortable with. And if you feel like coming out and people are rude about it, then you don't want them in your life anyway, because you can't really change that part of yourself like at all ever. And even trying to do that will only like make everything worse and more difficult. So I think, I mean, all of my friends are gay. Like every single person in this house is like somewhat on the spectrum, and they've been out way longer than I have. So having them in my life and being able to be, and to just like pour out all of these things I've kept in my whole life has been the best thing for me. Because they're like, oh, like you're 21 and like just now experiencing this. Like I was 15. Like you're such a, like, you have a long way to go. And it made me feel good because I was around a bunch of people who knew more than me. But yeah, sorry.
No, it's great. It's great. There were a lot of questions, and it's wonderful for you to, you know, be open and candid about all that. It's great. And so I want to. There's a question kind of related to what we've been talking about, all these topics. Raquel asks, what are some tips to start being more confident or loving yourself more? Do you have any thoughts there? Well, you were talking about, look, authenticity is a big part of it, right? That you got to be, whether it's your music, whether it's to yourself, to be authentic to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think in college, that was when I like truly surrounded myself with the right people. I think I'd always kind of like jumped around with friend groups and I never really felt understood. And so it didn't really give me a lot of room to respect myself. If I didn't have a solid group around me, and then I always thought that there was probably something wrong with me if I was always the one jumping around. But when I finally found my friends in college, I was like, maybe I am like not so bad. Like, you know, maybe I do deserve love. Like maybe I do deserve long-term friendships. I've never had that before, but I do deserve that. Like, because I'm giving it back to them, and they're giving it back to me, and that reciprocation is like so rare and so important. And it was very gradual. It really wasn't until I left college and I started to actually delve into this career when I finally was like way more comfortable with myself, and I wasn't I wasn't actively like putting myself in situations socially where I would have to be judged, or like I would be embarrassed by those kind of things, like me being on tour constantly and me like traveling and just being CLAIRO was like kind of isolating in almost the best way, because it gave me room to be like to figure myself out and then be confident and then enter into everything with confidence and feel good. Um,
By
so
the way,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, no, I was just going to ask you because being CLAIRO, I didn't ask. It's a stupid question, maybe, but I'm curious. Why CLAIRO? Was that a nickname as a
Oh,
kid, or how did that happen?
it was like my friend Claire had called me CLAIRO once, and I was like, "Ooh, that's really cool. I'm gonna change my SoundCloud name to that." And then I did, and then I never changed it. And yeah, my mom was always like, "Oh yeah, you should definitely have like a one-word artist name like Madonna or Rihanna."
Share, like
Yeah,
share.
yeah. And I was like, "You're right. I gotta figure that out." Um, so then, yeah, it just kind of stuck, and I still like it, which is good.
That is
Um,
good. That's good.
Not too. I don't hate it, which I'm happy.
Well, it's worked.
Yeah, it did work.
It's working for you. So,
um,
what is
but
the
yeah,
most? So, Vivian asks, what is the most rewarding part of being a musician?
probably just being able to make music, like, and that's it. I mean, there are lots of other things that come along with being a musician that I've learned
Yeah.
and that I'm still learning, and that, you know, all these extra things that I have to do, like promoting myself as a human being, is very strange. But I think like making music and having the space to do so and having people actually want that from me is so crazy. And it's like everything I've dreamt of doing. Like everything I've ever wanted to do is happening now. And I cannot complain about anything. Like I'm so
But if you did have to, what would you complain about?
I think maybe touring can be like really exhausting, like physically for me. I get like super run down. We did like a 5 month long stretch, and it was like one of the hardest things I've ever put myself through, but it was so worth it because I got to meet so many people and put on shows for people who care about what I'm saying, and I can't really ask anything else of anyone. So, you know, I don't really like talking like, excuse my language, I don't like talking shit about like being a musician, but there are ups and downs from time to time, but it doesn't mean that it's not the best thing that ever happened to me. It
Yeah,
is.
and look, this is when I talk to a lot of musicians and, just people who are creative types and who have had great success and always feel a little bit guilty. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but feel a little guilty that because you have wonderful success and all that, but you deal with all kinds of issues too. And there's also, I can't even imagine, it must not always be easy to have so many fans. And I mean, it's great to have so many fans, but to just have your own space sometimes too, and your own, that's got to be a little bit challenging at times.
Um, I think the most challenging thing for me was just like, oh, when I become a musician, like I'm not gonna be depressed anymore. Like I'm gonna be so happy because I have everything. And then I became a musician and I'm still depressed. So it's like I just thought that so many things were gonna shift and change, because that's like what um everyone thinks. Like when you become a musician, like everything's gonna change and your life is gonna be so much better and you're on the other side now. Like you did it. You did it. You became a musician. Like you should be so happy. And I am. I'm so happy. But it doesn't solve all my personal problems. Like I'm still like Like I can still not be the greatest person, and I can still feel awful all the time, just with my depression and just with things I'm going through, and like physical problems, like all of those things still exist whether or not this is happening. So I think once I adjusted my mindset and was like, this is great, but you also still have to put in a lot of energy with your happiness and with how you treat people, and you know, keeping your relationships alive, like going and visiting your friends, like seeing your family, calling your family, like those things don't just like keep happening just because you're busy. Like just even though you're busy, they're still there, and they're still going to notice when you're not calling, when you're not, like, even if your mind is just totally filled with all this extra stuff you're doing in your job and being a musician. It's like you still have to be like, you still have to put all the energy into everywhere else. And sometimes that becomes a lot, but I've gotten a lot better at like making sure my mom knows where I am at all times, and just like calling my sister when she doesn't expect me to, and like seeing my friends and going and visiting them. All of those things I just forgot about when everything was starting, because I was like, oh, I don't have time to even think about that. But you have to.
Especially now, look, everybody, a lot of times it's hard to get out of bed during these crazy times, you know, for everybody. I see it around the, you know, the young people around me, and it's understandable that it's how challenging it is. And so calling, reaching out to people, reaching out, you're not alone. We're going to have mental wellness and health sessions that are student to student, or young person to young person through Creative University too. I'm not going to, this is going to be, it'll be a safe space where people can meet each other and do that. That's really important. Like, that's very important. And by the way, everybody, I have so many questions, and I did my best to try to consolidate them. I have a couple more because we only have a little bit of time. Anastasia asks, what is one of the most, if not the most memorable or defining moment of your career?
Oh, that is such a huge question. Oh my goodness.
I like asking the big questions, Claire.
Yeah.
I do.
There have been so many. I think probably the first one. Oh yeah, this was a great one. It was probably the first one too. I was in college. I was at my first week of Syracuse University band year program, and they do this thing. Like the grade above you, so like the sophomores and the, I guess everyone's like, yeah, sophomores, juniors, seniors. There's only 25 kids a year in the program, so 100 students total. That's enough for one party, right? So the first week, they do this thing called initiation, which they like bring the freshmen to a party, and they like blindfold you, and they like make you drink, you know, all the like normal college things. And I remember the night of initiation, Pretty Girl had hit 1 million views, and all of the older kids were like, who are you? Like, why are you a freshman, and why is your video going viral? Like, I thought you were just a freshman. And I was like, I thought I was just a freshman too. Like, and then I never became a sophomore, a junior, or senior, because I dropped out to tour with Dua Lipa and be a musician. And like, it was just so crazy, because from that point on, everything was different. Like the way I was viewed, everything about my life changed. Yeah, and I left school because it just became too much for me to stay a full-time student. So that was probably the craziest moment. Yeah.
Okay, so related to college kind of stuff, here's a good one. Olivia asks, what type of person are you in parties? The DJ, the drinker, the crazy dancer, the flirty one, or the contrary timid lurker?
Whoa. At least in college, I was like the drinker. And then I would get like a little flirty. But I was like, yeah, I think my friends and I were just like invested in like cleansing the week, like detoxing all of our classes and just drinking. There was a lot of drinking that went on at Syracuse, but I'm good now. Everything's fine.
Syracuse admissions officers who are listening in on this.
No, they have to know.
Your school
they have to know that I am not the only one. But yeah, I mean, yeah, parties were definitely really fun in college. I do miss going to parties sometimes.
Okay, so at the extreme of that, maybe not extreme, Lynette asks, hi, Claire. If you were arrested with no explanation, what would your friends and family assume you had done?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Um, maybe like illegally downloading something or like stealing some sort of musical instrument from someplace I should not have stolen from.
Hmm.
Or I don't know, maybe like
Well, you said you had a new guitar, so there is
I
that.
didn't steal it though. I thank God. I didn't have to stoop to that level. But I don't know, maybe like I don't know. I could ask them.
All right,
Wait,
so, but
I
before,
really can ask them right now.
okay.
Wait, one second, I will.
Oh, she is gonna ask, okay. See,
Josh!
that's what happens here. That's what happens. So while she's stepping out of her room, afterwards, for those of you who want to hang on, I'm going to let her go right at the top of the hour. But for anybody who wants to learn more about Creative University, I'll stay on for a little bit, okay, for some Q&A. But so Claire's going to tell us
You have one?
what it would be.
Okay,
would you
this
be
is
arrested
Josh.
Okay. Hey,
Hi.
how are you
So the
doing?
question, I'm good. The
Okay,
question was,
The question
what?
was, if Claire was arrested with no explanation, what would her friends and family assume that she had done?
I would say she broke into a zoo and tried to free all the animals. She's such a little animal lover. She would free all like the cats, or I guess they don't have cats at the zoo, but like all like the little bunnies and yeah.
See,
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
that's a good answer. That's wonderful.
Yes.
All right, thanks, Josh.
That's good stuff.
See you
Okay,
around.
so
Okay.
before we go, any surprises you want to share to your fans out there about your like music, the upcoming music? You talked a little bit about your music, but is there just, do you have any little something you want to throw out there?
I don't really know enough about my album, but I will say I'm a good ways through it. And I'm really excited about everyone I'm working with. And I've surrounded myself with some very talented people. So that's all I can say. If I say anything else, I'll just give everything away.
What's the time frame?
I want to finish the album this year. I don't know when it will come out, but I am just trying to get it over with at this point. Not over with, but I am trying to like just pick songs and then elaborate on them a little bit more. I've just been making so many songs that I am going in circles at this point. So yeah.
And last question, what other artists, like who are the artists that you're listening to now and who's blowing your mind?
Like new artists?
It could be anything. This is your question. Whatever you want to tell the people out there who are listening.
Playlists. Let me look.
I mean, Carole King was a surprise one.
Yeah.
I love that. But
Love Carole King.
But new artists maybe, and some throwback artists.
Some throwbacks. I've been listening to like Neil Young and like
Neil Young, great.
Cody Chestnut's amazing. And then I guess new artists, I've been like really like Thundercat is like all I can really listen to at this point. And what else? Yeah, like Jai Paul, Hayam. Hayam is amazing. Their new album is like probably my favorite of this year. Really everyone, like I feel like I enjoy everyone's music in some capacity, but yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much. Claire,
that
was wonderful. It was wonderful to have you. It meant so much to everybody. You're great. You're delightful. By the way, as an aside, love your music. My daughter's at USC, junior, studying the music industry.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that program's amazing. I do know about that program.
At Thornton. And then my son's a senior in high school, so they're dealing with all this stuff. But they were with you at the very beginning, so we're a big music family. And that's such an amazing song. That's a great song.
Thank you.
But congrats on all the success. But really importantly, I know you have so many things that go on. This came together very quickly, very generous with your time, and you seem delightful. So
Thank you. No, it was really fun. I'm like so happy I could be part of this. Thank you for inviting me.
absolutely. So I'm going to stay on for a little bit. Feel free, Claire. You can end. I don't want to keep you any longer. There were so many other questions that people had, guys. I did the best I could, but thanks. And
Bye,
for those,
guys.
and for
Thank
those
you.
of you who want to stay on, I'll stay on for a little bit and answer any questions that you have. If you have any questions about Creative University, again, it's purely a give back. It's just meant to, it's for you guys. It's for you guys. We created it just so if you're interested in the music industry, the media business, entertainment, and tech, because tech is part of all of this now, then, and that's the world that I've been in my career, then it's for you. There really is nothing else like it because we get great people like Claire, who's just wonderful, but there's another artist that I urge you to check out if you like folk music. His name is Radical Face. That's the artist name, Radical Face. My favorite artist of the past 10 years. Beautiful, great folk music. And he did a session a couple of weeks ago about his creative process. So for you musicians out there, check it out, because talk about exposing himself in terms of his life and his stories, and a lot of the themes that Claire was talking about are in his songs, and they're amazing. They're amazing songs. So Radical Face, check it out. I'll give you the two. Start out with the song Welcome Home and The Mute. Start with those two and then dig deeper if you want. But check out that Creative University session with Radical Face. His name is Ben Cooper, because it's an amazing session where he gets into all of these kinds of issues and he goes deep. And you can go to the YouTube channel and find all those videos. The YouTube channel for Creative University, spelled CREATV. I'm just going to put it on so you see that again. You'll see the URL there. But if for those of you who are out there, like I said, I'm here if you have questions. And remember, it's about immediate internships too, internships in the business and mentorships. And so the hardest thing about getting in, I had no connections when I got into the business. I came out of Minnesota. That's where I grew up. I had no connections, knew I wanted to get into the entertainment business, had no idea how. I ended up going to law school, and I took that path starting as an entertainment attorney. Then I moved into the business side at the major studios. I went to Universal. Then I became a serial entrepreneur where I built media tech companies. And now I just do a lot of different kinds of things and get to interview great people. And hopefully Creative University, which, like I said, my family and I started it. My wife has been in youth empowerment for a long time. My daughter is like you, and son like you, dealing with all this stuff. And we came together and created this. And it's really meant to help you who really want it. If you really want it, really want to be in the business, we can help you. But you got to show you want it. So go to the Creative University website, and there's a lot of information there about the past speakers, who's coming up. We have one of the top execs at HBO Max. Her name is Jenny Morris. She heads all of content, the content creative strategy for HBO Max, which is one of the huge streaming services now that's trying to compete with Netflix and the others. And she's going to be on and talking about her journey and talking about the business, and it will be fascinating. But there's a lot of stuff. But it is also to give you something tangible too. Great stories, great insights, but also crossing over that velvet rope into the entertainment business. So I'll check. I still see a lot of people are on, so I'll check to see. There's, let's see. If you have a question about Creative University, type it in now, because there's a long, long list. And I want to make sure that I'll just stay on. If you don't have any questions, of course, feel free. But if you do have any questions, I'll stay on for a little bit. I'm just scrolling. is there anything available for recent graduates? There is, if you're a recent graduate from school, yes, you still would qualify for potential opportunities, because we already have one Creative U student actually who got and this is just in 2.5 months. This is what we've had. We've had 9 great speakers, 10 including today, 2 all live, but we'll put them on demand. 2 sessions about like the future of media entertainment. 8 companies have internships on our website. Several of those have been placed already, but I'm already, the team is already building more, and the team is students. Like they're helping build, you guys are helping build this thing. So if you want to help build this thing, then reach out to us. Go to, I'll give you, go to the, here, I'll give you an email to reach out to. If you're interested, go to this email and then I will get that. But if you're interested, there's going to be, there's a lot of different things you can do, but you have to go through a process, but it's not a hard process. It's just so we get to know you and we understand what you're all about. But yes, we would love it if more people spread the word about this, because it's about you guys and you guys are helping to build this thing. So those internships, we'd had one of our great students on a television interview already. And then there's all these student collaboration that's already happening together. And we're building that. And we do want to get into mental wellness sessions too. Jose asked the question, is this a free program? Yes, it's a pure give back. It's free. Will this session be on YouTube as well, the CLAIRO session? I hope so. Stay tuned. Check back on the website next week. We'll see if it is or not. Lucia asks, or Lucia, are there any internships that relate to music technology? Absolutely. We just placed one yesterday. I'm a hardcore music person. Music is fundamental. Our whole family is. I'm in the music business and the video business. I touch a lot of different things, but I'm pretty deep in the music industry too. And so we're all, my family and I, we're festival rats. Music is everything to us, like everything to us. So yes, it's a big focus of Creative University. That's why we had artists on it. We had another great session, by the way, music people. You got to check out the session with Rachel Cragg, C-R-A-G-G. If you go to the YouTube site, our YouTube channel, she's head of A&R at Network Music, but she's so much more. She knows, the theme of that talk was how to break an artist and song, how to break their music, how to get it out there, how to make an impact. And she knows all the tricks of the trade. And it's not tricks, but she knows how to, she's deep. She's passionate about artists. She represents artists. It's a great session. You'll learn a ton. You'll learn a ton. It's something that you should all check out. Stephanie asks, so, hold on. I want to go back to that other one. Actually, I'll keep it on that. So Stephanie asked, so if we wanted an internship, how would that work? What would that entail? Go to the website. The process is there. Participation is a big part of it. Show us that you want it. Demonstrate by taking the time. And we're there for you. Truly, we're there for you. Isabel says, I'm working on my Creative University application now. Do you have any tips for applying? It's all the tips Claire was saying, which is be authentic. We're not, be authentic, but we don't want to put rules on you on how you do it. There's a general framework of what we need, but the whole point is to show who you are. And like how badly you want to get into the business and what you think, what part of the industry is interesting to you, because we want to make sure that we match it up and match you up with a good mentor and with an opportunity. We probably, because we're getting a lot of applications, we want to help everybody. I mean, we really want to help everybody. Probably there's initially some projects that get your feet wet, but send your application in, but we'll be on it. let's see. Are there any specific requirements? Check out the website. It goes through what the requirements are. I mean, look, all these sessions that we have, they're available to everybody. If you want to have, if you really are motivated, here, I'll show you something that's in this deck. Oh, I guess I didn't have it in this deck. But it's kind of like, if you know the movie Jerry Maguire, where he says, help me help you, help me help you. That's what I ask of you. Help us help you. The best way to do that is to give us a true picture of your passion for the business, your commitment to the business, your commitment for taking the time, not taking shortcuts, your commitment to dotting the I's. I mean, CLAIRO had a great story about her first record label deal that was offered to her. They misspelled her name and they lost the deal. I'm telling you, one thing I've learned in my business, and it matters to me too, if somebody doesn't take the time to like proofread things, little things like that matter. They really matter. So the one thing I'd ask is that you don't have to write anything, I don't think, in the application process. You could do a video, you could do a multimedia something, you can do a song, it's very open-ended. But just take the time, be authentic, let us know you want it, let us help you identify what kind of interests are of interest to you so we can be most helpful to you. Let's see. Hello, I'm studying entertainment management at Pace University in New York City. What was the job that got you started off in your career? How does this current atmosphere with COVID affect looking for internships right now? Okay, so good question. So I mentioned a little bit that I was a Minnesota guy, grew up in Minnesota, had no connections, knew I wanted to be in the business, had no idea what that meant. And I went to law school, and then I had my first job as an entertainment lawyer just because I was tenacious and all that. I got a job as an entertainment lawyer. And my first major client was the rap group NWA, which some of you may not know, but some of you may know. But NWA was huge. That's Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Eazy-E. So that was my first like real taste of it. And then it was a very non-linear path that got me to where I am today. And so that's just, if you go through some of those sessions that are on Creative University and look at some of your videos, something that all of these people, all of them talked about was that don't feel like you have to have it all figured out, because none of us did. Nobody does. A lot of it is just going for it. Okay. What does the internship situation look like during COVID? I can tell you this. There are a lot more internships out there than you might believe. In some ways, it's easier to do internships for some companies because they may not have nobody's going to have an in-person internship anymore. There are a lot of virtual internships that are happening right now, a lot of virtual internships, which is great. You can be very productive, you can be very constructive, you can add a lot of value, you can learn a lot. And that's where the internships that we're doing right now, for the most part, that are on Creative University, those are going to be virtual internships, and they can be, but they're all really good companies. They're all really good organizations. There's one that is the organization Core Response, which is in the social impact space. And Core is Sean Penn's, actor Sean Penn's emergency relief, community organized relief effort. That's what Core stands for. His co-founder of that is a woman named Ann Lee, and she was our guest just a couple of weeks ago, Ann Lee. And Core, so Core Response, if you go to coreresponse.org, they're looking for people all the time because that isn't virtual. That's in the field. They're helping with COVID testing in Los Angeles and multiple cities around the country. And they do amazing work, and they need good young people. And even those kind of jobs, they're looking for people to hire as well. So that could lead to, it's a different kind of space, but I'm telling you, it's pretty powerful. Let's see. Also, would I have to Iran says, also, would I have to fly out because I live in Alberta? No, there's virtual internships. Like I said, do you have any tips for applying? I think we went through that one. Let's see. Does Creative U include the film industry? Absolutely, of course. Now, the film industry in a broad sense, I'm pretty deep in the video space, and so that's movies, television, because I've touched a lot of different places in my career. But so much is going on with the streaming services, the new tech-driven media, the social, obviously the social media networks. So, you know, you have YouTube, everybody, Instagram, everybody's doing, you know, videos everywhere, and there's storytelling in all different forms. So that's the beauty of what's going on now, is that there's not just movies, there's not just television, they're all blurring together. And yes, and a lot of these places need good people all the time. We're gathering these internships as fast as we can, but we're committed to trying to help. But we also need people like you to come be part of Creative University to help us help you. So that is an internship too. And I can tell you this, that the core students who are involved, the notes that they sent, the conversations we've had, I hate to put words in their mouths, but I think they're getting a lot out of it. Like I said, somebody has a permanent job because of it already, several internships already, and they're helping to build. They're creating the social media strategy for Creative University. They're doing that as we speak. So the tweets that you saw, the Instagram posts that you saw, that was all done by students at Creative University. So there's lots of different things. We need help. We definitely need help. And if somebody demonstrates that they're really, really good by doing that, by helping Creative University, then you're going to have a lot of fans such as myself and others who are associated with this who will go to bat for you. That's it's the power of relationships. That's my best advice there. Let's see. Do you have to have experience in the media music industry? No, you don't have to have experience in that. That's kind of the point here. That's part of the point. If you do have experience, that's great too. I'm not going to dissuade you at all. But the point of Creative University is also to give democratized access. So for those people, anybody who really wants to be in the business, music, media, entertainment, and tech, that's what Creative University is for. If you don't have experience, but you have that desire and you're committed to making it happen, then we'll give you that experience. We'll help you get that experience. That's the whole point. We have great guests. You'll learn a lot from them. CLAIRO was awesome, but it's really that next step also that makes Creative University very different than just about any other thing that we've seen. That's why we built it. And let's see. Any others? I think that covered most of them. Any last, I'm going to end now. So any last questions? Okay. So anyhow, guys, great to have you. Great to have you be a part of this. It was a very cool session for me too. I thought it's always fascinating to hear creators, you know, actors, actresses, writers, singers, artists, talk about their craft, how they do it. It's fascinating. One thing to understand, Creative University is for all aspects of the business. So we have diverse, so creativity comes into everything we do. I'm more on the business side and it's very creative. If you want to be in finance, that can be very creative. Like everything can be very creative. So what we try to do at Creative University, and this is important too, not only have diverse voices of, you know, all races, all you know, sexual orientations, all ages, diversity. We want to bring people on that look like this country. You know, so diversity of voices, different perspectives, but also diversity of roles within the business. So we have creators, we have artists, then we have venture capitalists. Then we have media executives like Jenny Morris from HBO Max. We had Kevin Mayer, who was the CEO of TikTok. And if anybody follows the news, Kevin, who I've known for a long time, great guy, came into TikTok from Disney in June. And 3 months later, today, he actually resigned from TikTok because TikTok, as some of you who are really deeply following and passionate about the space, as soon as he got in, TikTok just radically became stuck in the middle of geopolitics and out of his control completely. So that's how fast the world changes here. But we get that caliber of guest, you know, the CEO of TikTok. And so you'll learn a lot. I guarantee you'll learn a lot. I wish, as a Minnesota kid who had no connections or anything, I wish I had something like this. And it ultimately, again, send the feedback. Go to that email address I sent, send feedback of what matters to you guys, because that's what it's all about. So with that, thanks everybody. I hope that it was a good session for you.